Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 29th, 2020 Pittsburgh Board of Education and Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit's virtual legislative meeting. Would everyone please rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We're going to first begin this afternoon with the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit. Mr. Weiss, can we please have a roll call?
Mr. Carter,
Present.
Ms. Edwards,
Here.
Ms. Falls,
Present.
Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Ms. Harbin,
Here.
Ms. Kennedy,
Present.
Ms. Talafero,
Here.
Mr. Udine,
Here.
Ms. Wilson,
Here.
all members present.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weiss. Will board members please, well, if you can, you're turning to your minutes from February. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions from those minutes? All right, hearing none, I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the February 26, 2020 legislative meeting for the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit.
So moved. Second.
Was that Terry at first?
Yes.
Devin, and
We
then
should go back
Cindy?
to like we did last week, identify who's.
Just say your name. All right, so I think it was Devin and Terry.
Yes.
Okay.
But no, Cindy, sorry, let's get it right.
Okay.
Let's get it right. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? The committee report on education that includes agenda item 21.01 is before you. Are there any questions or comments that were not answered in the agenda review? All right, hearing none.
Miss
Do I have a
Kennedy,
motion?
Miss
Go ahead.
Wilson,
Go ahead.
are we doing the Mount Oliver or we're doing
Yes,
Pittsburgh?
we are Mount Oliver. We're on Mount Oliver right
Thank you.
now. You're welcome. All right, may I have a motion and a second to approve the committee report on education?
Veronica, so moved.
Terry, second.
Thank you. Hey, Mr. Weiss, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Carter, Ms. Edwards, Ms. Edwards. Is everybody unmuted?
Did you hear me, Ira?
I can now, thank you, yes.
Thank you.
Did you vote yes, Ms. Edwards? Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Ms. Harbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Talafero,
Yes.
Mr. Udine,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Mr. Carter, are you there? His vote is 8-0. Mr. Carter did not vote.
Yes.
He
Thank
did
you.
say-
I know.
Okay. All right, this has been approved as the minutes were approved as well. All right, if there's no further questions or comments, do we have I already did that already. Items 28.01 and 28.02 are the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit Financial Travel Report for February and March 2020. Are there any questions or comments on this report, on these reports?
Ms. Wilson, I have a question, This is Cindy. Is Ms. Bear on?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. I was just, I know really nothing in general about your finance statement, but are you in a position, do you follow the same time frame for your funding as we do? Are I know it goes through us to you. Is that correct? We're on the same timeline?
So my budget goes from July 1st to June 30th.
He's on a different calendar than we are.
Okay,
Right.
you're on the calendar. So, substantial is your balance now that's on your report, is that, are you financially stable as much as possible at this point?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Certainly. And I did skip one section, but we are on 28.01 and 02, and I'll go back to what I skipped accidentally. So but I have a motion to approve and a second for these two items.
So moved.
Second, Mrs. Devon.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Weiss, we need a roll call on this one.
Mr. Carter. Carter. Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
did you vote, Mr. Carter?
I'm sorry, my mute is delayed.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Falls,
Yes.
I did hear an S sound, so she voted yes.
okay, thank you. Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Ms. Harbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro,
Yes.
Drew Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Report's approved 9-0.
Okay, and I have to skip back to 25.01 through 26.02. That's the report on business and finance for the Pittsburgh Mount Oliver Intermediate Unit. If there's no questions or comments on that, could I have a motion to approve in a second as well?
Terry, so moved.
Second.
Is that Cindy? All right, Mr. Weiss?
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Ms. Harbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro,
Yes.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Items approved.
All right, thank you. If there's no more questions or comments at all, then this meeting is adjourned. Are there any other questions or comments before I adjourn this?
So moved.
Okay,
That's Terry.
all righty.
Second, Cindy.
All right, then we don't need to vote on this, I don't
Right.
believe.
Thank you.
Sure,
Thank
thank you.
you.
All right, we're going to now move to the April 29th, 2020 virtual meeting of the Pittsburgh Public Schools. We're going to call this to order now. Mr. Weiss, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Carter,
Here.
Ms. Edwards,
Here.
Ms. Falls,
Present.
Mr. Gallagher,
Here.
Ms. Harbin,
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Present.
Ms. Talaferro,
Here.
Mr. Dean,
Here.
Ms. Wilson,
Here.
all present.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Veronica Edwards to share our core beliefs and commitments.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. We will educate all children to their highest level of academic achievement. We will provide a safe and orderly environment for all students and employees. We will provide efficient and effective support for all students, families, teachers, and administrators. We will distribute resources in an efficient and equitable manner to address the needs of all students to the maximum extent feasible. We will improve public confidence and encourage strong parent community engagement in the district. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Edwards. Okay, at this time, will board members please turn to the minutes? Today, we will be approving the minutes for the February 26, 2020 legislative session. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions? All right, hearing none, I'd like to have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the February 26, 2020 legislative session.
So moved. This is Terry.
Second, Devin.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposition? All right, then the minutes stand approved. All right, at this time, I'd like to read the executive session statement. In addition to executive sessions announced at the legislative meeting of February 26, 2020, the board met virtually in executive sessions on April 21st, 2020, and immediately before this legislative meeting to discuss various personnel matters that may include, but are not limited to, administrative vacancies and positions open and closed. The board does not vote at executive sessions. Okay, by the way, if you have not refreshed your board docs in the last half hour, you might want to refresh it now, because there are 2 items that were not on prior to that, and you might want to refresh it just to make sure as we move forward that you are in sync with what we are looking at and talking about today.
Ms. Wilson.
Right. The committee report on education is before you as submitted by Ms. Sylvia Wilson, myself, the chairperson, and my committee of the Committee on Education. The report includes agenda items 5.01 through 8.24. If you would like to turn to agenda item 8.24, I'd like to give you the student suspension, transfer, and expulsion numbers for the months of February and the first half of March. There were 36 students suspended for 4 to 10 days. 17 students were expelled out of school for 11 days or more. There were no items pulled for further discussion at agenda review. Are there any questions or comments on the committee report on education at this time that were not answered at agenda review? I am aware that we will be discussing 8.23 in this section because this doesn't appear under new business. Is it in this section 8.23?
It's under,
8.2,
Go ahead.
it's 17.01 now. So it's been,
17.01.
yeah, it was moved from here. So in the agenda. if
So
you
it
look
is a new one. Okay. All right, then that's going to be considered, and it is a new item. All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns on the committee report for education, items 5.01 through 8.24?
Yeah, this is Pam Harbin.
Okay.
I just want to say that I'm going to vote no on the student suspension report 8.24 again, until I'm convinced that we have really good suspension and expulsion procedures in place that protects the rights of students with disabilities and our Black and Brown students that are disproportionately over suspended, expelled, and arrested in Pittsburgh Public Schools. I'm going to continue to vote no. I am happy that the district is continuing to work to make improvements to these processes, but I can't vote to expel students until I'm 100% guaranteed that we're doing the right thing.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, hearing none, could I have a motion and a second to approve this report?
This is Terry. So moved.
Second, Devin.
Okay, Mr. Weiss, can we have a roll call on the committee report on education?
Mr. Carter,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Ms. Harbin,
Yes on the report as a whole, no on 8.24.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Talaferro,
Yes.
Mr. Udine,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Entire report's approved. The vote on 8.24 is 8-1.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Weiss. We're now going to move on to the committee report on business and finance that is before you, submitted by Mr. Kevin Carter, chairperson in his committee. Report includes agenda items 9.01 through 12.12. There were no items that were pulled for further discussion at agenda review. Are there any questions or comments on the committee report on business and finance at this time that were not answered at agenda review?
Ms. Wilson?
Miss Wilson.
Oh,
Oh, you can.
okay.
You want me to do it, Erica?
I
Item
got it.
12.
Go ahead.
Item 12.03 is being pulled.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions or concerns?
Ms. Falls, Dr. Maystein, you were going to look into some of the similarities of the athletic versus the health and phys ed supplies. Do we have any report on that?
Ms. Falls, I'm sorry, I'm still gathering information on that, and we'll provide that to you as soon as we have it.
I thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further questions or concerns,
Sylvia, I do have a
go ahead,
question.
go ahead.
12.06, donations for the Remote Learning Fund. There is no amount there. So what does that mean? And what is the status of that fund?
So this is Ronald Joseph speaking. There is no amount because we are currently collecting donations. We will update the board on the amounts that we receive, and also we will send out letters of recognition for the donation for individual members who donate. So we've done these in the past. This is a blanket to accept donations so that we are able to purchase additional laptops for students who lack technology. So as we get that information in on the amounts of donations that we receive, we can provide updates to the board, but there isn't a specific amount because we don't have a specific up to amount yet. It's contingent upon the donations that we receive.
Thank you.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
I have a question. Mr. Joseph, are we actively soliciting donations?
Yes, we are actively soliciting donations. So via the Remote Learning Fund, we do have a splash page on the district website. I believe Dr. Hamlet this Sunday made sure to publicize our Remote Learning Fund to try to gain more public visibility for that fund. So we're actively trying to get donations. Any individual who's watching this meeting that would like to donate, there's a splash page on our website for the Remote Learning Fund, and they're able to donate. We partner with the Pittsburgh Foundation, and they'll be directed to that website should they choose to make a donation electronically online. And if not, they can also write checks directly to the school district and send them to 341 South Belfield and make sure that they're made to the attention of the Remote Learning Fund.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is Sala. Is this the appropriate time to discuss the issues related to technology and remote learning? Is my question clear?
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Dr. Hamlet. Go ahead.
I'll defer to the board on that, depending on if the board wants to address that right now. I don't think we're actually talking about the technology or education. Well, it should have been done on the education, but if you want to ask the question because we're talking about technology, I don't see why we can't field the question, Mr. Udine.
Good. My question is whether or not the report made by Mr. Joseph just now represents the totality of our strategy to provide technology to all of our students. And if not, what is that plan?
I think that's just one aspect that we have as far as the fund. We can compile the overall plan for you and get that to you.
We're also voting, Pam Harbin, we're also voting on a Heinz Endowments donation in this section, correct?
Yes.
Is it our plan to provide all students with computers? And do you have a percentage or a number of students who do not have hardware and internet access in our system?
I would say absolutely yes, that's correct, but we don't have the numbers right now. We can compile a comprehensive report for the board and share that with you that highlights exactly how many students that we reached, how many parents and families have responded to our technology surveys, and also the ones we need to get to as well, and what we're doing to actually make sure we get to those individuals who haven't responded to the technology survey.
I've inquired several times about what that number is or what the percentage is, and we keep being told that it's forthcoming. We either know or we don't know. We've had a survey and we've been inquiring of the families in our system and as to whether or not they need laptops or internet access. And I don't understand why that number is so difficult.
Well, I would say it's not difficult. It's a moving number. I'll give you an example. We have some families, a percentage of families, and I don't know the exact percentage off the top of my head. I think it may be 80%. And Dr. Dwyer chime in at the end to correct me if I'm wrong. Around 80%, 85% that we've actually reached that responded that we know. Based on that, we sent each individual list from the survey to the principals to contact those families who have not responded. And so that's another moving part. But I would say if you want to know exactly from the survey, we can give you that number. Dr. Dwyer, we have that number handy?
Not immediately, but I can identify the number of devices we provided or that we are providing for our 9th through 12th. One moment. So the most updated numbers for the devices that we're pushing out to schools to provide to our 9th through 11th grade students are 3,386. We get new information, like Dr. Hamlet said, this is a moving target. So we get new information from principals regarding students who may or may not have devices. Even when they've identified in the student home survey or the family home survey that they had a device. Sometimes the devices don't work, and sometimes the families responded in relation to the students, and as it has happened even with our own staff, they forget that they also need to have a device in order to be able to do their jobs because they're working from home. So the number of devices that we've provided out so far to be given to our high school students, we believe that we have identified all of the students who need devices, and that we'll be providing those. We'll have a better understanding of if there are further needs or if there were students who, once their family evaluated their situation, realized that they don't actually need a device. After we're done with that, we'll be driving down into the 8th grade by having the principals at the middle school grades provide information back on the students who need devices in the 8th grade. Once we've identified the number of devices they need, we'll provide the principals those devices, and we'll continue in that pace for the middle school and into the elementary school. We're also collecting iPads and making sure that they have filters on them so that we can stay in compliance with state and federal law. And we're going to be working on providing those out to our younger elementary students. We'll start with the kindergarten, first grade, and depending on the number of devices we have, that's what our plan is for coming up from the bottom and coming down from the top. So we're working on both using the funds to leverage for new computers so that we can fill the need for the students who are in middle and elementary school, and to make sure that we are getting devices to all of our students. The numbers from the survey, I'm going to have to provide that later, but as Dr. Hamlet said, the responses represented about 88% of our student population based on just the raw numbers. The way that we collected the information to make it easier for families to provide it required a lot of hand matching to make sure that we had the correct information associated with the appropriate students, so we could push that out to the principals so that they could use that to identify needs. And that's the stage that we're at now. As soon as the principals have their teachers reach out to the students to identify the need, that's where we'll be driving down into the 8th grade and getting that information. So our plan is to get a device into the hands of every student who doesn't yet have a device and needs a device in order to engage in education.
When do we expect that online learning and teaching will begin below the 9th grade?
Online learning and teaching is already occurring across all of the grade levels. There's also learning that's going on with packets because not every student has a device yet. So it's distance learning. So we have both packets that are being used in some households, and we have computers that are being used as well. So that's part of the learning plan that we've submitted to the state that you've already seen. So we do know that we have students at every grade level who have logged into the system and are using it. Where we want to be is to have every student able to log in and do it and to actually engage in education from home. So we currently have students at every grade level using the online systems.
But we have not provided all of the students who need computers and who need internet access with that equipment and capability.
That is correct. We have not yet done that. We're working on actually the students in 9th through 12th. We've provided with internet access for the students who have been identified as not having internet access, and we're working on identifying a process for providing internet access to the roughly 10% of the families who have identified that they didn't have internet access. We know that we've already gotten at least 240 of those families, because that's how many hotspots we have been provided out through the 9th through 12th grade. We know that that will also account for some of our younger grade students who don't have devices because their sibling is in high school, and we'll be evaluating and identifying ways to provide that information. And I know that we've got a forthcoming partnership that we can hopefully establish with an internet provider within the city of Pittsburgh, but I'm not sure that we're at a position right now to provide that information out until we're sure that we can actually establish a relationship.
When do you expect we will know, Dr. Dwyer, where we stand in terms of what the outstanding need is to provide all students with computers and internet access who need it?
So I'm going to answer your question in two ways. within the next month, we're going to be working on providing devices to students who don't have devices in elementary school and in middle school. So we're trying to provide devices and narrow the gap so that we've got all the devices. The question you just asked is all students. In order to provide all students a device, we would need thousands more devices to do that. So we're in a perfect world, we would have a one-to-one situation, but we were not positioned to have one-to-one devices that the district issues to students that they could take home. And it will take us time to get to that position. That is an aspirational position that I know all of us want to be at, so that our students all have the same type of devices and they can be using them to engage in education. But that will take much longer than the end of this year. I anticipate by late in May we'll have all of the devices that we need to schools. But
I have a question.
Is that Mr. Carter? Is that Mr. Carter?
Me.
Because I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
That's a little bit better. Go ahead.
So I just have a question for Mr. Dwyer, who's saying that, by late May, we'll have all the devices that we need, but school's over on June 12th. So I'm confused as to our level of expeditiousness in getting this resolved before the end of the school year so that all kids can learn. Can you talk about that?
So I anticipate having devices to students by the end of May, depending on the amount
And
of
school
need.
ends June 12th.
Depending on the amount of need in the schools. The district was never set up to provide out devices.
I know that the district wasn't set up to provide out devices, but now we are almost 8 weeks in to COVID-19 shutdown. What reasonable steps are we taking to ensure that every kid is learning? What is the daily average attendance? How's that looked over last year? I mean, I think that these are basic things that the board should be informed of that we're not getting. And I think that a lot of us are under immense pressure to provide answers to questions that sometimes aren't answered. But I think the tortoise pace by which we are taking this now is becoming bothersome to beyond the board and into the community. I'm starting to see a lot of parents complain about our lackluster approach to getting this resolved. And when you say that we won't have all the devices until the end of May, well, school ends June 12th. So now we have kids that have gone, what was first 3 weeks. Now we have kids that will have gone like 2 to 3 months without daily instruction, and that's a problem.
And to be
So-
look, to be quite honest, we haven't had the money to provide enough devices for every single person. And that was one of the reasons why we've been looking for donations and people donating money or the devices themselves that have gone, like Mr. Joseph has talked about the specs. If you can't provide things quickly if you don't have the money and you don't have the devices. And that was one of the reasons why their daily packets were provided, to try to put something in the kids' hands that don't have laptops and can't do online distance learning in that way.
And I think this is what I was getting at when
but it's not a snail's pace. I actually,
and I think that's what I was getting at while we're buying smart boards, versus using that money to buy more laptops.
I think
to buy technology
that was
for
explained.
next school year. Right. But that's what I'm saying is that, I feel like the most essential, most immediate need is ensuring that kids have access to the technology before we do all these other non-essential things before next school year. I mean, we don't even know if we're going to start next school year on time. And so, the fact that we have to wait 4 more weeks for kids to be fully deviced up, I just think is, that's unconscionable.
Hey, Kevin,
So I just wanted to call.
Even-
Hold on, folks. Can I chime in for a second?
Go ahead, Dr. Hammond.
I would say right now, this situation it is unconscionable. Nobody expected this. So to have something within a month, to have online education within a month, how we have it, is amazing in itself.
Technically not a month anymore. It would be like 3 months.
Kevin, hold on for a second. Okay. And all I want to say is that right now it's a supply and demand issue. We could order 10,000 computers. That doesn't mean we're going to get it in a month or 2 months, because across America, districts are trying to buy devices for their children.
That's
So it's a supply and demand issue. We know we're going to get to it. Our long range plan is to continue to provide and move forward to having a one-to-one environment, because you're right. We don't know. There's a high level of uncertainty if we're even going back to school via brick and mortar in the fall. So we're planning for both right now.
I'm trying to chime in, Kevin.
Yeah.
First of all, I was going to talk about the supply chain, and it's not just all the schools. Every business that all of a sudden had people working from home that were not set up for remote working is ordering stuff too. And you realize back when COVID-19 hit in China first and work stopped there, where are a lot of computer parts made? China. So they can't even get the materials or build the computers to even create the supply of what we need and everybody else is asking, whether it's the same model or different model. So that's number one. And number two, if online learning was easy to implement and to do well, then all the cyber charter schools would be knocking the socks off in performance. And we know that's not happening. So it's hard to do it. And if you recall, Ms. Harbin was pushing to get it right and go a bit slower because of the implementation issues, and the devil is in the details. And I agree, other folks were on earlier, but they had one-on-one devices. They had, or their families had their own, and they were better equipped. We were not equipped. We still can't even contact families. How can you teach people when you can't contact them? So that's my point.
Make a point, chime in here too, Gallagher. I think what we're going to see now, that we have to get back to the job of educating. We do spend an awful lot of money on things that aren't education. Okay, like for example, I'm going to go back to one we want to approve a $16,000 one-day field trip. All right, so now we know what we need, and this is what's going to be happening. So we're going to have to invest in one-to-one learning. I know it's a gigantic school district, but this has to get get us back to what we're taxed to do. And another thing is, how are these teams set up that are determining, the laptops going out or the packets? Like the number one complaint we got on the packets were you couldn't read them; they're blurry. So how the heck did they get out to the public if they were blurry? No one checked them. What's the accountability on the end of the people doing these things? Thank you.
So Ms. Jenkins, can you speak to some of the things that we know about as far as the blurriness in some of the packets? And it's not in a mass amount of packets, it's in specific places. But can you elaborate on that a little bit and what we're doing to make sure that doesn't occur again in the future? Ms. Jenkins? Well, when she comes on, I'll have her go into that question and talk about the blurriness and what we're doing to remedy that problem.
Thank you.
Yep.
Language that the student has. However, you want to focus if they're in a mainstream class, you want to focus on the supports and the scaffolding pieces. You're not required to make a class on this program. Again, we're uploading the documents on Teams, so you can use Teams, or you have this tool to be able to support you. So Teams is our platform of use. This just allows you to house that content and have additional flexibility. Are there any questions? Any other questions for me?
Ms. Jenkins, you actually, I think you were delayed or something. So maybe you might want to start from the beginning in regards to the packets specifically in the sections that we found out about being blurred.
Right. The blurriness in the packets and what you found out and ways we're going to remedy that in the future.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I was actually, I thought I was muted. Okay, so technically we had Pearson actually gave us a PDF version that we can actually edit. And so a couple of those pictures, it was really the pictures and the words that were on the pictures were blurred from the first packet. That has been addressed. We should not have any issues moving forward.
And specific grades?
That we will have moving forward are not just the question of blurred packets, but how much learning we can expect to take place between teachers and students who do not have internet access. I don't know that we can resolve this issue, Madam President, remotely and immediately. I would just like to state that I think our preparedness for providing all of our students with continued education is woefully inadequate. I would hope that the administration would develop a workable strategy for raising money. We've got some of the richest foundations in the country right here in Pittsburgh. I haven't heard any plan for strategically raising the money we need to provide all of our students with computers and internet access. I keep hearing small bits and pieces of patchwork, and it's just not adequate, and it's not providing our students with the opportunity for an education. It is woefully inadequate.
Realistically,
So also,
realistically,
I would say this. I would say
go ahead, Dr. Hamlet, go ahead.
I would say I beg to differ, and I'm gonna go this again. There's no district in the nation that was ready for this. And for you to think that having it at a snap of your finger is going to be there, that's not the case. And I can tell you that my team is working hard to do what we do to make sure that we get to kids at some point and families at some point. But also the information that we're putting out. The Heinz Endowment is donating $375 with other money coming as well. We have the Allegheny conference that put together the drive for us as well. So we have several things that we're doing that we're telling the board. And so if we need a specific briefing for you, we can put that together. But the information, we've been flowing and giving that information to the board. But also I will say this, I want to make sure that me and Dr. Dwyer and the team will work on a comprehensive plan of exactly what we're doing so it's crystal clear. Some of this shows up in our continuity plan. So I would say, read the information that we're providing, and there'll be clarity added to that as well. So a lot of information has been put out there. We have to read the information that's given to the board. We try to feed you as much information as possible, but we need you to read it.
I'm just going to say realistically, it's going to be difficult. This is not regular school time. This is not regular anything. There's nothing normal about what we're going through. And realistically, everybody is struggling with the same thing. I had the article sent yesterday, what was going on in Washington, D.C., and what was said. Believe me, this is not our normal. And yes, we are concerned about how children are learning or not learning. There are some parents who are making sure that their kids are learning and reading and doing something every day. And there's other kids that are just on their own. So yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, we are concerned about all the learning loss that's occurring right now. The learning loss is going to occur over the summer. And that was one of the reasons why we have to look honestly how we're going to, if we have a summer program, how do we address these losses during and what we've lost already in this summer program if we have it, if we have the money to fund it. And then beyond that, what do we do with the next school year? We've already had some conversations with Dr. Hamlet, how the beginning of the school year is going to have to look much different than what any normal school year beginning will be. But yes, realistically, yes, kids are not learning like we would want them to because this is not your realistically regular school time right now. It just isn't.
With all due respect, Madam President, I think our job as a board is to set high expectations and push the administration and ourselves to meet those high expectations and not make excuses.
I'm not making excuses. I'm talking about reality.
I understand it is your reality. I think that we have to create a new reality and provide an adequate education for these students.
And I think that's what's trying to be done right now. We can't expect to snap your finger and expect some miracle to occur.
With all due respect, Madam President, I'm not asking for a miracle. I'm asking for a comprehensive plan and a comprehensive response, an effective response by the administration, and making excuses for them and protecting them. provide the
Making
kind of,
excuses, and I'm not protected. I'm talking about real things that happen every day. And what we are all going through right now, and everybody else is too. This is not just a Pittsburgh issue. This is going on across the whole country. This is not just Pittsburgh. And I don't know how much more time I can say. It is not just Pittsburgh. We are all fighting the same fight. We all are. And that doesn't mean that we don't try to we hold our superintendent in the cabinet to high expectations. Nobody is saying that we're trying to do something. We're not soft pedaling here at all. Not in the least. Not in the least. And even to insinuate that with people who know how I am about education, insinuating that is rather a little bit on the insulting side. And to be quite honest, folks, we've argued this over again. We've heard from people, and to be quite honest, we actually had been completing the report on business, and we were at the point of having a vote on that report on business when we took the time to discuss this, and I think we need to move on. So, Mr. Weiss, at that point, we didn't have any more questions and concerns about the report on business. So I think that we are ready for a roll call vote on that.
We have a
So
motion.
moved.
All right, Terry,
Terry, yes, sorry.
Second. I second that, Devin. Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
I was
you.
just getting ready to
Topic
call
here.
for the question.
Okay, go ahead. We're ready to vote,
So
Mr.
roll
Weiss.
call. Mr. Carter? Carter?
Yes.
Ms. Edwards?
Yes.
Ms. Falls?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Ms. Harmon? I'm sorry, was that yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Kennedy?
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro?
Yes.
Mr. Routine?
no,
Ms. Wilson?
Yes,
The report's approved 8-1, and note that, as noted by Mr. Joseph, 12.03 was pulled.
thank you. All right, we're going to move on now to the Human Resources Report. Item 13.01, that includes addendums A, B, and C was submitted by Mr. Bill Gallagher, chairperson in his committee. And before we be taking any questions or comments, Mr. David Maystein has something at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. The report interscholastic athletics items on pages 31 through 34 are all going to be pulled. Once again, interscholastic athletics items on pages 31 through 34 are pulled. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, any board members have any questions or comments on the Human Resources Report?
Wilson, I do.
Yes,
Cindy.
go ahead.
There's two things I'd like to comment. I mean, obviously, we acknowledge everyone who's retiring and thank them for their service, no matter who or what level or what services they provided for the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And but there are two people that I just would like to call out. Patricia Holloway is someone who I worked with for a very, very long time at Carrick High School. And she worked with our ladies and gentlemen on the pregnancy advocacy part. And she worked very closely with our young ladies and our young men who she tried to help prepare for parenthood. And this was by no means an easy job. And I remember many, many, many times where we spoke and we tried to come up with some plans for certain students and etc. But always in the best interest of the students. Went above and beyond, outside of school, resources, provided buggies and clothes and things for. I mean, the woman really, really, really. I don't know how many years, has really given to the Pittsburgh Public Schools. And I honestly believe that deserves acknowledgement. And the other person I'd like to say is Chuck Wagner. Chuck Wagner was a math teacher at Carrick High School. And of course, we were colleagues. But on a little bit more personal note, Chuck Wagner and his mother and my mother were in an apartment building together. And it was very interesting for us to have many discussions about us now being the caregivers of our moms. And I'm not sure Mr. Wagner's mother has passed away, but of course mine has. But it's very wonderful to see that another side of somebody. And it was a very warming side for Mr. Wagner and I to be able to share that experiences of our mothers, being able to bring them together to talk and to do all those kinds of things. So I'd like to thank Mr. Wagner both personally and professionally for being the great man he really is. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to acknowledge those two folks. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Falls. Are there any other questions or comments for the Human Resources Report?
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, like Ms. Falls said, acknowledge all of the people who are retiring, but Dr. Virginia Hill, I just want to acknowledge is an amazing principal, and I'm very sorry to lose her, but I wish her very well.
I second that as well.
Same here.
All right. Hearing no more questions or comments, may I have a motion and a second for a roll call vote on Human Resources Report?
So moved. Cindy.
Terry, second.
Mr. Weiss, could we please have a roll call vote on the Human Resources Report, including addendums A, B, and C?
Carter,
Yes, on the report as a whole. I'm going to abstain on addendum B and C.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Ms. Harmon,
Yes.
Ms. Kennedy,
Yes.
Ms. Talaferro,
Yes.
Mr. Udine,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Reports approved, addendums A, B, all the addenda were approved 8-1.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. All right, items 16.01 and 16.02, the financial statements and controllers reports for the month ending December 2019, January 2020, and February 2020, and March 2020 are before you this afternoon. Are there any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 16.03, the EBE report for March and April 2020, which is also before you this afternoon. Are there any questions or comments on the report?
Question.
Go ahead.
This is Salahuddin. I expressed my concern previously about the general inadequate effort apparently being put into our inclusion of minority and women-owned businesses. And I implore those who are responsible to take a deeper look at to how minority contractors and providers and women-owned businesses can be included in the board's purchasing of services and goods. It is not adequate. It looks terrible, and we have to revise it so that there is greater effectiveness and participation in how we spend the public's money.
Any other questions or comments? All right, then thank you. Are there any announcements to be brought before us this afternoon before that do not require a legislative vote?
New business.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did miss the new business. I'm sorry.
That's right.
I'm
Probably
sorry.
wasn't. It
New
probably wasn't in the
business
script.
17.01 and 17.02. Sorry.
Mr. Weiss, is that my cue?
I don't have the the judge in front of me, 1701, the grading policy.
Yes, sir.
That's, yes, that is the thing you were concerned about.
Okay. Before I read what I have, I would just like to say that there are basically two fundamental roles or responsibilities of the Pittsburgh Board of Education directors, and that is to hire and evaluate the superintendent as well as make and enforce policies. There's other things we do, but those are our two main responsibilities. So in regards to the grading policy, I would like to read this statement. I move to amend item 17.01 on the education. Is that moved on from education general authorization?
Yeah, look,
The new
okay,
business,
sorry, it's new
the new
business.
business that,
Someone is crunching something, it's a little irritating. All right, thanks. Go ahead, Ms. Falls.
okay. I move to amend item 17.01 on the new business section that pursuant to policy 209, grading and reporting of student progress procedures, the superintendent be authorized to implement a grading procedure to be utilized for the grading of students during the 2019-2020 school year in light of the COVID-19 emergency. And if I may add just to this, policy 209 is completely within the realm of delegation of responsibility to the superintendent to develop procedures for grading. So as a board, we are enforcing the policies that exist. And this is by what we are reading. Again, it's policy pupils section 209 that gives the superintendent that responsibility for this. I motion that we carry through with this policy.
I second Cindy's motion.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir. Oh, no.
Are,
Ed, go ahead.
who?
I think it was, I only heard Mr. Udine right now.
Am I to interpret Ms. Fall's reading of the policy that to mean that the board has no role in setting the policy regarding grading? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. It's not a policy on grading. The policy actually gives the superintendent the responsibility of devising the grading guidelines. It is not a board policy that the board votes on this. And all the years that I've been involved with the Pittsburgh Public Schools, there have been many changes in the grading policies, grading guidelines, excuse me, guidelines. People keep saying policy, it's guidelines. There have been many changes in the guidelines and the board has never voted on them.
If I may, as the policy chair, let me read the policy for those who are not viewing it. All right. And it says purpose. The board recognizes.
It's hard to hear you, Terry.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to hold one computer and be by the microphone on the other. All right. The board, this is the purpose. The board recognizes that a system of grading student achievement can help the student, teachers, and parents to better assess the student's progress toward personal educational goals. The board believes that the cooperation of school and home is vital in the growth and education of the student. It recognizes its responsibility to keep parents informed of student welfare and progress in school. It also recognizes the effort of state board regulations and federal regulations governing school records. Next section, authority. The board directs that the instructional program of the school district include a system of grading for all pupils, which is consistent with the educational goals of the school district. The board directs the establishment of a system of reporting student progress, which shall include written reports and parent conferences with teachers and shall require all appropriate staff members to comply with such a system as part of their teaching responsibility. Next section, delegation of responsibility. The superintendent shall develop procedures for grading, which include the following. 1, each student should know what end result and achievements are expected at the outset of any course of study. 2, each student should be kept informed of his or her personal progress during the course of a unit of study. 3, grading should objectively evaluate and reward students for their efforts. Students should be encouraged to evaluate their own achievements. And 4, all grading systems are subject to continual review and revision. The superintendent, in conjunction with appropriate teaching staff members, shall develop procedures for reporting student progress to parents and guardians, which 1, utilize various methods of reporting appropriate to grade level and curriculum content. 2, ensure that both student and parent receive ample warning of a pending grade or grade of failure or one that would adversely affect the student's status. 3, enable the scheduling of parent-teacher conferences at such time and in such places as will ensure the greatest degree of participating by parents and not preclude the participating of either parent, the participation. 4, specify the issuance of report cards at intervals of no less than 9 weeks. This policy was adopted June 27, 1990, and last revised April 25th, 2012. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may add, I just want to say that we realize under these certain circumstances, I think that even places a greater responsibility to the superintendent, who has reached out to a variety of sources, to our communities, to parents, to administrators, input from the board in various times and etc. So it's been a variety of places. It's not just, the superintendent sitting down and writing down, this is what it is. And we have received a copy of that from that Ms. Pugh sent out actually this morning. But that is our policy. That is our policy. The board has given input at various times, but our policy, which is one of our responsibilities, is to enforce that.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes,
Go ahead.
I am so disappointed that we are shirking our responsibility as elected board members to provide policy guidance to the superintendent and administrators of this school district during this coronavirus pandemic, when everything is so up in the air and in need of clear, strong guidance on policy from this board of directors. And we are running away from our responsibility to provide that kind of policy and clear guidance. And I'm shocked and ashamed that given all of the input that the public has wanted to make on this subject, that we are running away from our responsibility to take the subject in hand and provide policy guidance on it. That is a shame, and it is a dereliction of our elected duty, and we are letting down our students in providing that kind of clear guidance and policy. I'm ashamed.
Mr. Rajane, I would like to respond to that since I'm the person who made the resolution, please. All of the work that has been done on here we have all had an opportunity, if we so felt, to change the policy to follow a procedure that that policy could have been followed, which meant if you could have suggested, and we would have had a policy workshop with the public present and able to listen and and then give their input. The public hearing, there's a procedure that's followed in reference to policies. So that is one. We all could have done that. Now, I do say to you, I feel bad that this was done at such a late time, but I also want to say that I think that with all the input that has come in, that together somebody having to own this, our superintendent, which we eventually will evaluate, has that responsibility and must own it. So I am not ashamed. As a matter of fact, I'm very proud that we are following the policies that we've made and are in existence, and also that we look for did you read today? Did you read what came from Miss Pugh in reference to the grades?
I did read it, but if we are not being asked to approve it, I don't understand why it's being presented.
Well, it was included. That's why it was on the agenda. That's why I'm making the amendment to to change it so that it goes in the direction that it should be. The policy to, and giving the direction and ownership to the superintendent. It is not running away. Mr. Udine, I can speak for I've never run away from anything in my life, nor do I believe my colleagues have either. And I honestly believe that a sincere, I was up for days and nights just trying to make this so it's right. Now, right meaning I know that this leadership, I know this leadership will do the best for the children, but we cannot, how can we not abide by the policies that are there? That's one of our responsibilities. We could have changed it, but no, but we didn't do it.
We couldn't have changed it in the time frame that we're talking about because we only
Exactly.
started talking about this recently. That is not how policies are changed. And
Right.
again, this is a difference between policy and guidelines. We are not shirking our responsibility because the responsibility on this falls to the superintendent. That is where the responsibility lies. And Mr. Udine, last week, when you sent me something and I told you that we shouldn't even been voting on it because it was a guideline and not a policy. So it isn't like it's something new. I did share that with you last week. This district has never had the board vote on how the grading guidelines changed, just like it was read when Terry read that from the policy. Guidelines changed a lot. We've changed guidelines many times. That's a responsibility of the educational system who is making the direction on what they do in the schools, how teachers grade. That's where the responsibility lies. It does not lie with us. There are lines of responsibility, and this is not one that falls under the umbrella of the Board of Education.
And
There are
as
a lot of things that we have to approve as a board that we don't directly impact. Just like Ms. Harbin is upset over the suspensions. We still have that. We approve that every month, but it is not something that we actually impact except for on how we see what goes on in the schools. But there are certain things that we have to vote on that's required by law to vote on. But this one in particular, this policy applies. The whole responsibility falls on the superintendent. And that's where educational issues and leadership and direction, that's where it falls. And that's where it always has been. That's where it belongs.
And this is Terry as policy chair. I will let everyone know we've added this policy on grading guidelines to a list of policies to be reviewed by the policy committee. Now that may mean it gets changed. It may mean it stays as is. We haven't looked at it yet. It's been added to a long list on our to-do list. So it will be reviewed, but right now we as a board are legal, in my opinion, we are obligated to follow every policy. We should not be breaking policies any more than anyone else does. So we can't violate a policy. And the policy.
Question.
All right.
Go ahead, Ms. Udine.
We are responding to an unanticipated crisis, health crisis, that has crippled the nation and has crippled the school districts within the nation. This requires a larger response than just hiding behind policy. It requires leadership and clarity from the board. And we are running away from the moment. And if we are saying that Dr. Hamlet has full responsibility for this, then Dr. Hamlet, you have full responsibility not only for this, but also the consequences that will come from it. It's in your lap.
Are there any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd like to have a motion in a second.
No, I just want to respond to that.
Go ahead,
And
Ms.
that's our
Falls.
opportunity to evaluate, which is part of our job, the superintendent on this piece. However you would choose in your evaluation for the superintendent. That's our job. So I'm not, I hear you, Mr. Dean. I understand what you're saying, but I also know that this is the as it is now. And I can't imagine, remember how many times we're reminded that certain tasks are administrative, certain tasks are ours. Well, this task is an administrative decision on grading. And I'll be honest with you, as a teacher, I could not imagine my board telling it the inside of this system, making the total decisions on that, when indeed in writing it is the responsibility of the superintendent. So please do not refer to any of your colleagues as running away or not addressing this. We have a difference of opinion, and that's okay. I strongly believe that you are honest in your beliefs, but please don't say that that those of us who believe in this are running away or hiding. Please.
I thank you. And by the way, I was incorrect. We do have a motion. The motion was made by Ms. Falls and it was seconded by Terry. And I think at this time, Mr.
Vote.
Weiss, could we have a roll call on this, please?
Ms. Carter,
No.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
I believe he said yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
he
okay.
did,
there it
yes,
goes.
thank you, thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Harvin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Talaferro,
Yes.
Mr. Dean, Mr. Dean,
No.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
motion carries 7-2.
All right, we're moving on to item 17.02 that I had in front of me and I don't have it now. Okay, the rescinding and rejecting a bid award. Mr. Joseph? Or is this Pam Capretta?
I believe this is Pam Capretta,
Okay.
but I can answer a question if you guys have
It's
questions.
Pam. It's Pam Capretta. Is this related to the new item?
17.02, yes, you want to talk
Yes.
about it?
Yes. We are asking the board to rescind and reject the bid and rescind the board approval of the maintenance contract for gray waste that was done in December of 2019. And we will bring that back to the board for rebid due to some legal issues.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on that item? All right, hearing none, could I have a motion in a second to approve this?
Terry, so moved.
Devin, second.
All right, Mr. Weiss?
Carter,
Yes.
Ms. Edwards,
Yes.
Ms. Falls,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Ms. Harbin,
Yes.
Mrs. Kennedy,
Yes.
Delafarrow,
Yes.
Mr. Dean,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson.
Yes.
Items approved.
Okay, now, are there any announcements that need to be brought before us this afternoon that do not require legislative vote?
I
see Miss Kennedy's hand is waving.
Yes, thank you. I just would like to announce to everybody as the policy chair, the anticipated MOU between the school district and the city will hopefully, I was hoping it would have already been shared with the board, but there was a little hiccup. And so Ms. Zundel is hoping to get it to the board and the public by tomorrow. Hopefully, if not tomorrow, it'll be Friday. She has a family issue. So that's what's going on. It will be on the May legislative agenda, and we're making it available for public review prior to the agenda being released, so people have ample time to read over it, and certainly they can speak up at the May public hearing with whatever comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Comment.
Miss Edwards, go ahead.
Just a comment, even on the grading guidelines, that I went to another 5, 6 districts, and I actually ended up liking ours better than the ones that I read from other districts, which even included NSBA. So you had to do some homework. I did some homework and I settled for ours. It's a 7-week period. We can get through it. Let's educate our kids to the best of our ability. They did not come up with coronavirus either. So there's no reason for us to punish them, but to teach them the best that we can. I wanted to congratulate Finance on the selling of Man and Belmar, which have become eyesores. I know the one Man is on the north side. So the people in that community are definitely happy that somebody is buying that building and turning it into something that the community will approve. When I think of Belmar, I always think about Pat Washington and how Pat took care of that building. So I'm just happy to see that we are moving forward and it'll add to the finances of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
I just want to say that I am very proud of this board. We have our disagreements. We have everything, but I think when it's all said and done, our hearts are for trying to do what's best for the students, the district, the communities, the city of Pittsburgh. There's a lot going on. And, I think everybody works hard in their own capacities, and there's no one whose opinion, is more important than the other. I think we're all have the right to be heard, and we are. And the other thing is, Miss Mike on here? Miss Mike?
Yeah.
Yes. Would you please inform our guests here, my colleagues, and about your donations that will be occurring this week?
Tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we are going to be donating to career and technical education teachers, family consumer science, technology education teachers, and one of our health career teachers all work together as a team to create masks and mask extenders for our essential workers at AGH. And tomorrow with Superintendent Hamlet, we will be presenting those to Mr. Jones and the president of AGH.
And Miss Mike, can you just also just add very quickly that we have or had students who are out in these facilities?
We do. We'll also be donating to Presbyterian Senior Care, who is another partner and has been a partner for about 3 years, as well as Allegheny Health Network. And we have students who are working there. They are some of our essential workers that are working with the seniors at Presbyterian Care and are doing a great job. So we'll also be donating masks to the workers there, which includes some of our students who have graduated from Westinghouse. And I believe we have a student from Carrick that is working there currently too.
Thank you, Miss Mike. I just thought it was really important for everyone to share in the fact that, you know, Pittsburgh Public Schools is out there too with the community in a lot of ways that you all are involved in. But this is a neat way for programs to be seen out in the community and to actually be out there helping people who, again, are on the front lines. So thank you, and thank you, Miss Mike, and I applaud always your work. Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Wilson.
And if I can just add real quick, we also have, hello?
We lost you. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go
We
ahead.
also have Heinz Endowment, Michelle Figler, who is also supporting this project, and we're very appreciative of her support and Heinz Endowment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Okay, any other
Miss-
board members
Miss
have
Wilson?
comments? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, this is Gallagher. I just like to bring something up that I was made aware of about, you know, the equity in our district with access to the technology. Some of the students that are receiving district issued computers have cameras that are disabled. So, you know, they can't use some of the tools that teachers have been using. And like, for example, one of the things is Flipgrid. Let students make videos of themselves that they use in world language classes. And other students who were issued, like, you know, kids from Kappa and their cameras were enabled. So this is something we might want to look to down the line, that, you know, we're not being fair to certain kids. You know, I don't know if there's legal or whatever's involved, but, you know, this is something that hurts. It hurts the kids.
There was some confidentiality regarding the cameras on some of those devices. That's what I understand.
Yeah, Mr. Gallagher, we're definitely aware of that. That's been a topic of our discussion at the executive cabinet, and we're looking for a fix for that. So we're working on it.
Thank you, Dr. Hamlet. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. All right, any other board members? The announcements?
Yes. Stenographer, we appreciate you.
Pam Harbin has.
Go ahead, Ms. Harbin.
Yeah, I just wanted to also thank the board and administration. Most people probably don't know, but we've been meeting an unusual amount of time with the superintendent and his cabinet, because he has been keeping us up to date every week. And we're continuing to do our committee meetings online. And I mean, this is all new for everybody, but we are definitely all hands on deck during this pandemic. I'm happy that Dr. Hamlet did allow the community to vote on the grading guidelines and get input from the community and the teachers union and teachers themselves. I did personally read every testimony that was sent to me. I haven't responded to everybody yet because it was quite a lot. We did have 4,000 votes or something like that. So I do think the process was good. I have been in contact with other board members from other Pennsylvania schools, and there were no other boards that voted on the guidelines. So it was, I thought, unusual that we were going to do that. So, but the policies are all over the place. Guidelines are all over the place. And I just want to tell everybody that I think that's something that we should ask the Department of Education to maybe do, because leaving it up to every school district to come up with their own guideline, I think, was really messy. And now when you apply to colleges, the colleges are going to have to say, well, Bethel Park did this and Mount Lebanon did this and Pittsburgh Public did this. And so I think the whole process was messy. Um, and I am just going to continue to push as a board member for us to do it the right way, which I think is our right, no matter if we're voting on it or not. Um, the other thing I want to mention is that we did not have a board meeting in March, a legislative meeting, and typically at our legislative meetings, we honor people. And I was really excited to be able to honor the local task force Right to Education award winners. So we have the champion awards every year in March, and we were not able to do that. But just so everybody knows, there were teachers, there were community members, there's a student self-advocate that won an award, which I'm going to read. It's Jenna Schreiber from Brookline, won a student self-advocacy and leadership award. And then we have two people that have passed. Marlene Cabaniss from SciTech was a teacher that won an award. Sorry. And Dr. Kay Couples. Dr. Kay Couples started out as a speech and language teacher in Pittsburgh Public Schools, worked his way up to the director of special education, then became on the executive board or the executive cabinet, and his legacy is amazing. So congratulations to all the winners.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Harden.
Miss Mike wants to just make one more notation, if you would, please.
And then I want to do an addendum to what Ms. Harbin just said. Okay, but Ms. Mike first.
Go ahead, Ms. Mike.
Just wanted to also give a shout out to Mr. Salahuddin for the wonderful articles that he sent around making masks with the 3D printer. And I was able to share those with the teachers, and they did use some of those articles to help in putting together their plan for mask making. So just didn't want to forget that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, Ms. Kennedy.
Thank you. Ms. Harbin was referring to, there's actually an award that was named after Dr. Couple. I think the first year that we as the LTF started these awards, which was, seems like a zillion years ago now. I was around in the beginning of those awards, and most, if not all of us, interacted with K Couples in one or more ways. I knew that there were issues when I did not see him in June at an event he had never missed in all my years. So I was not surprised when he passed. It didn't make the loss any less, but not only did he make an impact here in our district, he made an impact across the region. If you said his name, people knew who he was. People were asking for his talents, and he didn't have the bandwidth to support all those requests. There's not enough good we can say about him, and hopefully he's looking over all of us right now, and he's greatly missed. But the folks who win the award, and Ms. Harbin can chime in, I forget what the award that's named after Kay. I know it's the biggest award, if I recall, but I don't have an LTF awards program in front of me. But we named a specific award after him, and if Ms. Harbin wants to say what that award is for.
Yeah, sorry. Principal Pager from Minadeo actually won the award in his honor. So I don't want to slight anybody, principals, teachers, physical therapists, literacy coaches. There were a lot of people that won these awards. And sorry for getting a little emotional, but this has been, I'm a parent in the district, and this has been a really emotional time. You know, I think everybody's grieving for, you know, school is not the same, and it's hard for a lot of our kids and families and staff to you know, not be able to deliver education in the way that we did before. And this has just been a really, really tough time. I appreciate everybody having patience and grace, and we're not doing everything correctly. We're going to learn from our mistakes, and we're going to do better. And if this is our reality in the fall, we're planning for that. Everybody should know that. And, you know, please keep an eye on what the Department of Education is telling us to do, because not all of it is our decision. But, please keep contacting us, letting us know if you have ideas for improvement and way things can improve. But until then, I'm glad we've made a decision to, hold people harmless for not being able to access this new way of teaching and learning in the perfect way. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Harbin. All right, Ms. Teleferro.
Hey, just quickly wanted to share. Yesterday, I had the privilege and opportunity to represent and talk a little bit about what the district has been trying to do in order to make sure that we continue to educate our children. So I got to be a part of the virtual town hall that was hosted by One Hood Media and Urban Kind Institute on their Tuesday virtual town hall series, What Black Pittsburgh Needs to Know About COVID-19. And so it was just an honor to be able to talk about all the things that we have been for weeks being briefed on and led to know. And so I just want to thank everyone for the work that you all have been doing to communicate that to the board and making sure that everybody knows what's going on, and for hearing the suggestions and input and being able to acknowledge those in your decision making. And as well, it was a good opportunity also to hear from Cecil Price III, who is my favorite person over there at Obama, the president of the student body at Obama, and really the president of my heart. So he got to share his experience, kind of dealing with the transition from remote learning or from in-person schooling to remote learning in his senior year. And I know that's a challenge for a lot of our seniors. And so I'm looking forward to what we're going to be able to do virtually to lift up our seniors this year, because it hasn't been a normal one for them. And they definitely deserve to be appreciated and celebrated for their accomplishment in graduating high school. So I'm looking forward to what we're going to do for that. And that's all.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you were able to take up that opportunity and participate in that. All right, is there anyone else? All right, and hearing none, just want to say to encourage all of us, this is an extremely difficult time for us in our personal lives, as well as in whatever responsibilities we have outside of our homes, and all of us on the school board working what we have to do, and all of those that are working so hard. This is not an easy time. No one ever predicted that we would go through a time such as this. I'm glad I didn't have to go through this before. I don't know. I guess maybe if I had been through something similar, I guess I'd be a little bit tougher than I am right now, but it is something that will make us stronger, not weaker. So be strong, stay well until we see each other again. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Motion, should we do a motion to adjourn?
Oh, I guess we do need a motion. I think we do. I do.
Terry's making a motion.
Second, Cindy.
All right, all in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All right, motion's carried. Okay, see you, everybody.